Today we test the temperature of the Midlands Market in Nottinghamshire. Talk about the hot seat.
But what a strange place for the boiler.
This 3-bedroom semi in Derby has a red hot kitchen.
It's like a red wine mixed with tomato. Clash!
And the buyer of this Stoke property is going to need a cool head.
Now, clearly we are entering the realms of fairly specialist opportunity.
All of these properties have been sold at auction. We'll find out who bought them and what they paid for them when they went under the hammer.
The village of Pleasley in Nottinghamshire is very pleasing on the eye. The River Meaden runs through the village and determines which part of it are in Derbyshire and which are in Nottinghamshire. Pleasley Pit, which formed the main employment in the area, closed in 1983 and then became a mining museum. The nearby village of New Houghton was built to house the mine workers, like the property I've come to see.
Some real nice little details on these terraces. All these arched bits above the windows. Brilliant. But what am I here to see? Well, thankfully, it is one of these very properties. 3-bed, mid-terrace, guide price at 40,000 quid. So what have we got? Well, little entrance area here. Interesting sort of cupboard area there underneath the stairs, but a useful place to store all those things you've got nowhere else to put. New carpet. That's not a bad thing to see, although you do wonder sometimes if it's covering up something. But your front room here, big window underneath that archway probably. It's a nice size. A few signs of damp on that front wall. You'd want to investigate that. Through into the rear sitting room. And I quite like this layout, actually. You've got that front room there. The stairs up to the bedrooms curving round there. And then this, I guess this is your rear sitting room stroke dining room. Dominated by this fireplace. So what do you think? Keep it, get rid of it? Personally, I think I'd put something slightly more in keeping in its place. Definitely retain the lovely feature, but maybe not that one. Through into your kitchen. Well, it's not huge. You could contemplate basically taking out that wall, supporting it obviously with some beam over the top there, opening this into a really nice sort of kitchen living area, real family friendly space. Or you could leave it as it is, replace the units. I mean, either way, it's just adding to a not bad little house. Actually, not little at all. Not bad big house.
Opening up spaces like this and making a dining kitchen is what's in demand for modern day living. That and easy access to the garden.
Oh, I do like a nice set of sliding patio doors, only bettered by the slightly more modern trend of bifold doors, where you can literally pull back the whole glass wall to reveal the room and open out the house onto the garden. I think you probably want to do a bit of work before you do that, though. It's largely laid to concrete at the moment, and the rest of it is a bit of a jungle. But it's a good size. I mean, look at this. And rear access, which is a bonus. So maybe decking, grass, water feature, place to park your cars. Ideal.
Out here, I've spotted a trio of bonuses. Quiet back garden, secure off-road parking, and the vista from the front of the property over the fields is very nice. So far, I like everything, downstairs and outside. There's just upstairs left to discover.
So, upstairs, and just more confirmation that this really is a good-sized terrace. Seemingly on the inside, much bigger than it is on the outside. 3 half-decent-sized bedrooms, so lots of ticks, really. And, really importantly, the bathroom upstairs too. But what a strange place for the boiler. That's not very clever, is it?
All in all, it's not a bad house, especially with a guide price of 40,000. But that carbuncle of a boiler and casing would have to go for me. A case of mind your head on the way back out. And on the way in is a local estate agent, invited along to give some opinions and valuations.
I would say the property is in very good condition. And it doesn't need a tremendous amount of work doing to it in order to put it up either for resale or onto the rental markets. For the price bracket and for the area, if you were to sell the property, it would probably go to a first-time buyer.
I could see that. They could live in it as is and do up the kitchen, etc. in due course. What would be the market value then?
If the property was done up to a reasonable standard, I would recommend an asking price of £70,000 to achieve in the region of £60,000 to £65,000. For rental value, I would recommend marketing the property at £400 to £425 per calendar month.
Well, a few modifications required here and there, but intrinsically it's a good house in pretty good condition. I certainly like the location. So yes, lots of boxes ticked. Let's see who went for it when it went under the hammer.
On to lot 279. It's New Houghton. Freehold mid-terrace house, 3 bedrooms, lot 279 in New Houghton. Start me at 30,000. 30 I have, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. No, it's against you on my right, it's with you on my left at 39,000. 40 anywhere else. Gentleman's bid, bold bid, thank you, 40 I have. Fresh place, 41. Fresh place at the back, 41, 42, sir. 43. No, it's not. It's your bid, 42,000. It's against you at the back. 43 anywhere else. First time at 42, second time at 42, the third and final time at £42,000. Your bid, I think you got it. Sold at 42.
You may recognise Kate and Charlie. They've been on the show before with their family of little helpers.
My work was painting and trying to get wood chip wallpaper off the walls.
And I scrubbed quite a lot of the skirting boards, hoovering.
I did a lot of things from stripping the wallpaper to painting.
I'm really pleased to see the house come back to life, really.
In fact, they bought this house at the same auction as the previous one, so I met them to find out what their plans are for this one.
Tell me why you wanted to buy this place.
We were looking to buy a new buy-to-let property and we came to look around here and it was just the house that we were looking for.
Right.
Ticked all the boxes, doesn't need a huge amount of work doing to it and we know the area, so yeah.
What was on your checklist then? You said boxes. What was in your boxes?
Something that we could do and the family could do as a joint project, and so this really fitted the bill. We get them to do as much of the refurbishment we can do. We obviously get tradesmen in to do the electricity and the gas and all those bits and pieces, and plastering. They're not plasterers yet.
Let's talk about this place and what are you going to do to sort it out?
Okay, it doesn't need a huge amount doing to it. There's a bit of damp to sort out. We're going to get someone to come and have a look at that for us. We want to take out the feature fireplace and we're going to refurbish a little bit in the kitchen. The only other thing we're going to check is the boiler. If that needs replacing, we'll put a combi boiler in and sort that out so it doesn't eat into as much space in the room, and try and get a shower in that bathroom as well.
Okay, so we'll talk about outside. What are you going to do with outside?
I think we should leave the back area for space for 3 cars, and then we've actually had quite a lot of interest in renting the property already.
Oh, right.
So we may even have a discussion with the tenant to see what they'd like. So
let's talk about the refurbishment costs. How much do you think it's going to cost?
We've put a budget of about £3,000. If we have to do the boiler, we might put that up to 5. But we're really looking at a quick turnaround, 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks?
It will slip to 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Cracking the whip then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And will you two get involved as well?
Yeah, very much so.
Must be nice to sort of be doing it as a family, actually.
Yeah, it actually is quite a team-building experience, we find, you know. It has been over the last year when we've done other houses up. It's been really good, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. Yeah, we enjoy it really. Not perhaps in the thick of it when it's really late at night and everyone's hungry, but it is good. It is good, yeah.
The family certainly seem to be on a roll. You might recall I mentioned earlier that they bought the 2 properties on the same day at the same auction, and the similarities didn't end there.
Both houses have the same street name. So.
That's obviously going to be lucky for you then, isn't it?
Yeah, it is lucky. It causes lots of confusion. But
yes.
it is. Yeah, it was meant to be, I think.
You say it caused confusion, but...
Well, unfortunately, solicitors only decided to convey on one property.
Oh, no!
And we got to the exchange day and we said, well, where's the other one? And they went, other one?
You are joking.
No. So we conveyed, though, they were marvellous. They conveyed on the whole second house in 1 week.
Yeah,
so that shows they can do it.
That's a classic. So they sort of went, what do you mean 2 properties?
Yes.
There must have been a heart in the mouth moment.
There was a slight moment of panic because we didn't want to incur huge fees for not completing within the 28 days. So we were only a week late.
Yeah, well, phew. Good that the vendor was sympathetic.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
So is it going to be rented out? Is that the plan?
It is.
Both of them?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to be renting them out.
Building a portfolio, or is this just...
We are, yes. Yeah, we already have. So we already have 2. Our first 2 houses we bought last year. And then these 2.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Your double purchase.
Yes.
Good luck with it.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing how you get on.
Thank you, Martin.
Cheers.
Well, what an unusual set of circumstances and slightly problematic one, as it turned out. Thankfully, though, it was sorted, and Kate and Charlie and their children can get on with sorting this place out. How will they get on? You can find out later in the show.
Derby Day here on our meander round the Midlands. We're in Chaddersden, just east of Derby town centre. As well as lots of its own amenities, it has great transport links into the surrounding area. I bet we'll be finding some interesting properties here.
Well, along this residential road is the 3-bed semi I'm here to see. Now, it had a guide price of £55,000. That sounds pretty reasonable. But I'm not a fan of the pebble dash exterior. But there are a few positives I can see from the outside. Firstly, there's double glazed windows. And secondly, somebody has already built a porch, which now, well, it only needs to be rendered. So far, so good. I think porches are wonderful creations. They keep out the wind and the rain, somewhere to store your coats, bags and shoes and bikes. Fabulous. So let's have a look around then. Well, nice hallway, reception room, double glazing, a real bonus. You've got central heating and a wowzer. Check out the kitchen. It's red, black and white tiles. The funny thing is, though, it's like a red wine mixed with tomato. Clash. I think I'd like to sort of try and calm it down just a little bit in here. But something else you need to think about, the guidelines to have your cooker and your sink, well, you should have at least 40 centimetres apart. You could think about switching this over, so your sink's over here and your draining board's here, but I'd definitely have a little bit more of a gap between the hob and the sink, or even you could move it somewhere else. But a great space in here, but if you think this is a good space, check this out. It's only a utility room, and it's massive. It's almost like a second kitchen. You've got a downstairs loo, door leading out to the front, a door leading out to the garden. In fact, I would say this downstairs space is almost good to go. That's if you like red kitchens, of course.
That's a great-sized ground floor. There is some work needing to be done, but it's all cosmetic. Things are looking good. The upstairs bathroom looks freshly done. I just hope that if the new owners do decorate the kitchen, they buy enough paint for the upstairs too. Lime green, anyone?
When a property's already in good condition, there are less ways you can add value to it. However, one way where you can give a place like this a boost and make it more saleable is to create some off-road parking. And I can see a lot of the neighbours along here, well, they've already done that. You will need to apply for permission from the local council to drop this curb. But the driveway should only cost around £800, and it could add as much as £8,000 onto the value of the property. Well worth it. Don't you agree?
Along with the relevant permissions to get a driveway, the front and back gardens are going to need a good clear out. Never underestimate how much soil this produces, so factor skip hire into your budget. Still Still, all this space and a potential driveway for a guide price of $55,000? What's the catch?
If something seems too good to be true, well, unfortunately, it often is. And I have a big bombshell to drop. This house is prefabricated, which means it's of non-standard construction. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, that is bad news. It means that this is susceptible to structural problems, and even though there are no signs of that yet, mortgage lenders will be very reluctant to provide money, which means it could be tricky to sell on. Now, not only that, it reduces the value of this property compared to its brick-built neighbours by around £20,000. Ouch. I hope the buyer of this one did their homework and they know exactly what they're dealing with.
I wanna build you up. I wanna break you down.
This issue can be resolved by building a brick skin, which could cost around £20,000. Or, suddenly, the colours inside the house don't seem like an issue. As long as the buyer has done their homework and is aware of the possible constraints around the mortgageability of this property and the possible cost of making it mortgageable, then all should be well. Time to find out if a local property expert thinks this is a secret gem or some fool's gold.
The property is it's a good size. It would certainly appeal, in my opinion, to a young family. All the big items of expenditure, in my opinion, have all been taken care of, but I do feel that it's ready for a cosmetic overhaul and general tidying up.
I agree entirely, but what about that non-standard construction?
It does pose some limitations in terms of resale value. Some mortgage lenders are a little bit guarded about lending on properties of non-standard construction. However, that is easing a little bit more now. More lenders are taking a view that they will lend on these properties.
That's certainly positive. So what value would she put on this non-traditional house?
Once renovated, in my opinion, the property could resell for somewhere in the region of £95,000.
And if the property was to be rented?
In my opinion, the property would let for approximately £525 per calendar month.
So this property already has double glazing, central heating, as well as a modern kitchen and bathroom. But it's of non-traditional construction, don't forget, which will always limit its end value. Still, as long as the structure remains sound, well, I think it doesn't need too much work to bring it up to standard, and as a rental investment, well, it could provide a decent return. Let's find out who that buyer was when we went to auction.
The guide is 55 plus. Who's got 50 to start me, and let's get on? £50,000. Thank you, 50,000 I've got. 51 is bid at 51, 52, 52,000, 53.
The bidding was very competitive. We rejoined the auction at £66,000.
66, 500, 67, 67,000. Is it getting a bit warm, or is it me? £67,000. Sure, 500. I thought you might. 68, 68, definite. 67,500. Once, twice, third chance. It's yours for 67,500. Thank you.
With a successful bid of £67,500, the house was to be developed by Hemi, who has recently become a full-time property manager. I caught up with her at her house to find out more.
Hemi, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Is this the first one you've ever bought at auction?
No, I actually bought another one on the same day. So that one's actually already rented out. This is the first big refurb project for the business.
So tell me more about the business.
Yes, the business. Well, what it is, I'm a property manager. I manage buy-to-let residential properties on behalf of landlords, clients. And this one was the first purchase at auction that I've done for one of my clients.
So is this a fairly new business?
Yes, it is. So within the last 12 months, so it's all very go, go, go. Considering it's so new, I'm already managing like a dozen properties, wow. 2 properties bought. But no, it's really fun, really a lot of fun.
I'm taking over. Now I'm in control. When the pressure's on.
A dozen properties? Hemi's certainly hit the ground running. What does she intend to do with this? The business's first big refurb.
So what is your plan? Are you going to keep this, sell it on? Are you going to let it out?
I think initially it's going to be let out. It's a lovely house and we know the rental potential around here is quite good. We're going to see really what happens next year. No one really knows what's going on in the market, so we're just going to wait and see.
So tell me a little bit more about your client.
Well, I manage all his portfolio at the moment. So when he approached me and said he wanted to expand his portfolio, I was the first person he thought of. Lucky for me, he also just happens to be my dad.
Wow.
So, yeah, so he's going to be doing that. So he's putting a lot of faith in me for that.
So do you think your dad has helped you sort of springboard into this business, really?
I think it's been more than springboarding, it's more sort of inheriting his passion for it.
Yeah.
The more he talked about it, the more I got interested in it and thought, yeah, I'm going to give that a go, actually.
And guess what? Hemi's parents have been on the show before, in 2010 in fact. Homes Under the Hammer spans generations of property developers.
Hemi, I've done my research and I know this is non-traditional construction. That might have put some people off on auction day. Did you know that?
We were aware of some things about it. It was more to do with the fact that we'd checked all the legal documentation before the auction. We'd made sure that all the building regs had been in place for all the extensions, and we were pretty happy with the fact that there wasn't actually any structural issues. It was just cosmetic stuff that we needed to do.
But what about the fact it is non-traditional construction, i.e. it's not built of typical brick and therefore it's hard to get mortgages on, hence that's probably why this was at auction. Do you think that might in the future be a bit of a hindrance, could put some people off?
Well, to be honest with you, if it does in the future come up as an issue and people do say, OK, there is a problem with mortgages, we'll just keep it for rental.
As Hemi is planning to rent the property, the house's construction is not much of an issue. But regardless, I'm glad to hear she went in with her eyes open. With that concern out of the way, Hemi's planning on leaving much of the ground floor as is, simply redecorating, which includes, mercifully, some paint to tone down that radical red kitchen. What about upstairs?
The upstairs, to be fair, is actually pretty good. There's a few suspect colour choices. There's some interesting wood ceilings been put in. To be fair, I've actually had a couple of my contractors say it could be an interesting feature if we just tidy it up. So I think we're going to do a bit of that. And the bathroom is completely brand new, we just need to install a shower.
The client, Hemi's dad, has agreed a £5,000 refurbishment budget. But what about the timescale?
At the moment, we've estimated between 4 and 6 weeks. I have to be honest, sometimes I look around and think, I only don't need that long. And other times I think, oh, well, actually, maybe. We've allowed 6 weeks, mainly because a couple of the contractors I'm speaking to are a little bit busy at the moment. So rather than starting when we were looking at, it might be delayed for a week. So although the work won't be actually that long, to make sure the contractors are all there on time, we've allowed 6 weeks.
Hemi, I can't wait to see it once you've freshened it up. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, it's an exciting time for Hemi. She has her own property management company and her client for this house, her dad. She seems very relaxed about this project, but will it all be as straightforward as it seems when she scratches the surface? Don't forget, it is non-traditional construction. Join me later in the programme and you can find out how she gets on.
Coming up, I'm at a property ripe for redevelopment.
The profit could be anywhere between £1.5 million and £2.5 million.
And in Chaddeston, Derby, we find out what Hemi's dad makes of his daughter's handiwork in her fledgling career.
Now back to New Houghton and the parish of Pleasing Pleasley, the village that's partly in Derbyshire and partly in Nottinghamshire. This 3-bedroom mid-terrace was bought at auction for £42,000 by Kate and Charlie. The family were going to get stuck in together again, having previously renovated another property bought at the same auction with an uncanny coincidence.
Both houses have the same street name. So.
That's obviously going to be lucky for you then, isn't it?
Yeah, it is lucky. It causes
Great.
lots of confusion, but it is. Yeah, it was meant to be, I think.
You say it caused confusion, but
Well, unfortunately, the solicitors only decided to convey on one property.
Oh, no!
woo! And we got to the exchange day, and we said, well, where's the other one? And they went, other one?
1 month later, we're back. Remember that featureless front room and the heavily featured fireplace in the back? Well, it's all changed. Both the downstairs rooms have been freshly painted and decorated, and the new laminate flooring is practical and bright. Extra and repaired kitchen units with new worktops and a new colour scheme refresh the old kitchen. Upstairs, the bathroom got a thorough transformation with that previously daft position for the combi boiler sorted and a nice new suite and shower, so no more cases of concussion from the combi. It's all looking much better. Only the bedrooms remain much the same. It looks like a sensible refurbishment. Much of the original fixtures and fittings have been cleaned up and reused. So what's the story with the latest addition to the family portfolio?
The main infrastructure of the house was pretty sound, apart from the wiring that we've done. The carpets upstairs were in good condition, so we've kept those. But that's about it.
In the kitchen, we've kept the same units, but moved them around to make a bit more sense of the space. It's quite small in there. We've replaced all the worktops and really given it a coat of paint and made it look a lot brighter. We've installed a gas cooker and an extractor over it, again, to make it a little bit more contemporary and really make it look a nice, workable kitchen.
The family have been working round the clock and still are by the looks of it. So how has renovating 2 houses at the same time been?
Manic, but they've both gone well. I think that if the opportunity happened again, buying 2 houses at auction at the same time, we'd probably do it again.
They are gluttons for punishment. Buying in pairs could mean double trouble, but they seem to have got through it untroubled. How come?
The kids have been brilliant. They've come in and done all the decorating, the cleaning, the tidying. They've trimmed the garden. The 2 older boys have painted the outside of the house. And they've all taken on jobs and tried to do new things as well. So it's been a really good learning experience for them.
The main argument is it's 12 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock midday. It's time to get out of bed, kids.
Once they're here and we're working, it's good. Lots of tea breaks, chocolate biscuits, bacon sandwiches are made. So that keeps everybody fed and watered.
Hence the expression, bringing home the bacon. But did they bring home a healthy budget? Initially it was set at £3,000 to £5,000.
We've spent just about £6,000, and that's because we did replace the boiler. We thought that was a good thing to do, and we also went for a slightly nicer spec on the bath and the shower, just because it's a really nice sized bathroom and we wanted to give it a feel of space.
£6,000 doesn't seem all that bad, but what will 2 local estate agents make of the family's efforts?
I think it's been renovated to a very good standard. The 3 bedrooms is obviously a benefit. It's got a good sized 3rd bedroom as well. The kitchen and bathroom are very modern. And the fact that it's got off-road parking with no restrictions on the street is a bonus as well.
The standard of finish is right for the market that we're going to be appealing to. I think it's been done to a high standard, and I think that you can tell a lot of hard work's gone into it.
The house was bought for £42,000 and then has had £6,000 spent on renovation, a total of £48,000. If the family wanted to sell, what could it fetch on the open market?
I feel the property could resale between £65,000 and £70,000.
If I was to put this property onto the market, I'd recommend an asking price of £70,000.
At £70,000, that could mean a pre-tax profit of £22,000.
Wow.
That's good.
That's pleasing.
That's great.
That's very pleasing.
Yeah.
But of course, Kate and Charlie are going to rent this property as part of their portfolio and already have a tenant. So what kind of rent should they have been looking for?
If this property was to be on the rental market, I'd recommend an asking price of £400 per calendar month.
I feel the property could achieve £425 per calendar month.
We've got it rented out at 425, so that's fair enough.
That's great.
£425 per calendar month gives the family a yield of 10%. Their fourth property is sure to put even more pennies in their piggy bank. And what an interest rate! But will the kids continue property development when they're older?
I think I'd need 4 children to go into property developing, because otherwise I don't know how I could afford it.
Yeah, all the free labour, yeah. We must have saved Mum and Dad a couple of grand helping out here.
On each house.
On each house, yeah.
So.
But the money's good, I can see it's a worthwhile investment, so.
I have lost track of how many times I've visited the Stoke area for Homes Under the Hammer. But let me tell you, it's a lot. And the lot I'm here to see is in Bucknell, which is about 1.5 miles from Hanley. So far, so familiar.
So at this point, you're probably expecting me to say I'm off to see some 2-bed terrace or maybe a 3-bed semi. But no. I am here to see this. A 43-bedroom former care home sitting on 1.5 acres of land. So as to see, I don't know where to start.
On the face of it, it seems like a bargain for a guide price of £200,000.
Now, clearly we are entering the realms of fairly specialist opportunity scenario here, but I shall try and inspire you with the options through what is a temporary door at the moment into what I guess was the main community area. It's a big space. You kind of get a feeling when you come in here of, well, there's a lot of clearing out to do, and also the age of the building, and so you've got to be aware of some of the building practices of the era in which this were built. So one of the things I'm definitely looking out for is signs of asbestos. Other than that, let's just see what we find.
The building was built in the late 60s, early 70s, at a time when asbestos was commonly used as a fire retardant and insulation. So there's a reasonable chance it could be hidden behind ceilings or walls. So I'd advise that the building was checked for asbestos. Electrics and plumbing probably aren't up to modern standards either, so a lot of rooms, but potentially a lot of cost.
Well, it's quite hard to get a grasp, and even worse to try and explain the kind of layout of this place, but I'll do my best. Back there, sort of an industrial kitchen, more sort of staff areas and just facilities here. And as you progress down this corridor, we're moving towards where the bedrooms are. In fact, this is quite useful, a map, a layout of the actual place. Here's where I came in. There's that big lounge area there. Through here, the kitchen there. Down here to where I was just a second ago. And I'm now at this point, and you can see the bedrooms spreading out down this long corridor here and down here. So you get an idea. A really, really extensive building. And that starts you thinking about what you could potentially use this for. That needs to be mulled over, but for now, as I said, one long corridor going down that way. Let's head this way.
This place is vast. Along with 43 bedrooms, there's washrooms, hair salons, 6 offices, a kitchen dining area, 3 sitting rooms, and seemingly miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of corridor.
Well, this place has certainly got my developer's mind racing. So let's just look at the options. First of all, you could leave it pretty much as it is. Obviously, you'd have to spend a bit of money doing it up, but converting it back into a care home or some kind of residential care facility. That's number one. Number two, you could think about keeping the existing building but putting it to alternative uses. Thirdly, what about the option of developing it? Well, I've just been kind of going through some back of an envelope calculation in my head, and I reckon as an average in the UK at the moment, between 12 and 17 houses per acre, ballpark. So you've got 1.5 acres, so that's between 18 and, say, 25 houses on here. Let's say each of those houses be worth value 150,000, and let's say each of them cost around about £50,000 to build. Take off the cost of buying the land, social housing you might have to build, putting in utilities, general bits and pieces, architects' fees, blah, 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 blah. I reckon, ballpark, if you built houses on here, the profit could be anywhere between £1.5 million and £2.5 million. Numbers like that are eye-watering, but there's an awful lot of hoops to jump through before you'd get to see any returns. You might not get planning consent for a start, and then what you've got is a big building that might be hard to do anything with. So this investment wouldn't be without its risks. What does a commercial property agent think is the best use of this former care home?
My opinion would be that whoever subsequently buys this property continues to use it on an existing use basis. That will obviously require a lot of refurbishment and investment, but in doing so, the existing planning use class order will not need to be adjusted, which obviously makes life a lot more simple.
Simpler indeed, but could there be any money in it?
It is a tricky property to value as a completed project because the value of the care home is largely dependent on the revenue that it produces once it's fully occupied. But knowing what we do about the size of the property and the revenue that it's likely to generate, I would estimate that the value completed and fully occupied will be somewhere in the order of approximately £1 million.
So, what do you think? A tantalising opportunity or a project that's just too big to even think about? Depends who bought it, I guess. Let's find out who that was when it went under the hammer.
Lot number 6 is a former residential care home. Has on-site parking with gardens, there's kitchen and lounge, site area of 1.5 acres. So, lot 6, 170, can I say? 170 bidding? Yep. £170,000 standing left at £170,000. So can go 175 now at 175 at 175. 180 right at the back at 180. 185, 185.
Maybe not surprisingly, this was a popular lot, and we rejoined the bidding at £350,000.
350, 355, 360. 365, 370, 375, shaking his head, 375, bid seated right at £375,000. Bid is seated right at no mistake at £375,000 then for the first time, at £375,000 for the second time, third and final time at £375,000. You bought it, so well done.
And so for £175,000 over the guide price, at £375,000, the new owners of the former care home in Hanley are father and son team, Bill and Phil. I met them back at their new purchase to find out what they hope to do with this extensive building.
Bill, Phil, great to meet you both.
And you too.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Why have you bought this place?
It's a good business proposition.
And tell me more about the business proposition then.
Well, we're going to convert it back to its old self.
Right, so old self being a care home?
It'll be a care home with particular interest to those who've got dementia and Alzheimer's.
OK, a very worthwhile project then. Tell me more about your involvement in this sphere.
Well, we've been involved in it for 26 years. We now have 5, and we are 6th, and we're hoping that this will be as a success as the others have been as well.
Right. So how much demand is there, Phil, for what you're providing?
We have looked into it quite a bit, and there is quite a lot of demand in the area. Residents won't like to travel too far from where they're normally based.
Yep.
But there is a lot of demand.
Bill is chairman of the care home company. It is a very highly regulated sector that involves a thorough knowledge of working practices. But for Bill, it wasn't his first career.
So how did your business start? I mean, is this what your background is?
No, I started off in the entertainment business.
What kind of thing?
Discotheques, Well, I opened the first discotheque in the country, in Hanley, more or less 50 years ago this month. They're called The Place.
Right,
Up Hanley.
1963.
1963.
And that was the first disco?
It was the first disco in the country, yes.
So what kind of music were you playing at the time, I suppose? The stuff
It was
of the era?
Beatles, Rolling Stones.
You had a lot of live bands as well, though, didn't you?
Oh, we had a lot of live bands, yes.
Like?
Well, it was Elton John, Rod Stewart, Drifters, Four Tops, all the Supremes, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, all the Motown acts.
Wow, and they were all playing in Hanley?
They were all playing in Hanley, yes.
In your disco?
Yes, yeah.
So how did that lead into what you're doing now?
I had a chap who was working for me who suggested that I carry out a development on a house, and he felt that it would make a good nursing home, convert it to a nursing home. And I said, well, I know nothing about nursing homes. And he said, well, my fiancé's a nurse, and it seems like a good prospect, and there's a great demand for nursing homes.
Right.
So I looked into it, and this is where we went from there.
26 years ago?
Yes.
So in order to convert it to what you want it to be, what are you going to have to do?
A lot of the rooms aren't large enough. They've come at about 9 square metres. We have to make them a minimum of 12 square metres, which means combining a lot or the majority of the rooms together to make usable rooms.
So how many rooms will there end up being?
There'll be 42 bedrooms.
42 bedrooms, and does that mean 42 residents here?
Yes, up to a maximum of.
Yeah.
Are you going to do anything to sort of make your care homes sort of stand out?
Well, we will have speakers throughout the corridors playing soothing music and maybe music of the era as well. We might have a sensory area or a sensory room we might put into the premises.
Nostalgia, reminiscence.
Reminiscence. Though we'll have a sensory garden as well, which will be a secure sensory garden.
What do you mean by sensory garden?
So the residents are able to sit down, relax, have things that will heighten their senses. So smells, visual things, so from floral plants to fruit plants and fruit trees as well. That type of thing.
Sounds like an expensive project.
Slightly.
How much is it going to cost to get this place up and running?
Well, we reckon about 550,000 to 600,000, and we expect it's going to take 7 to 8 months to complete the building works.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck with it.
Martin, thank you.
Yes, pleasure.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.
So, father and son team, Bill and Phil, taking on, well, an ambitious project by anybody's standards. However, they've got the experience to make it a success. How will they get on providing a very valuable service for the area? Let's find out later in the show.
We've seen how our first buyer got on. Now, what about the others?
Let's see if everything went as it should have.
Back now to Chaddersden, Derbyshire, where earlier I saw a 3-bedroom semi-detached house which was bought for £67,500 to be developed for rental by Hemi, a property manager. She has only recently gone into property management, and this was to be her first full house refurbishment for a rather special client.
Tell me a little bit more about your client.
Well, I manage all his portfolio at the moment. So when he approached me and said he wanted to expand his portfolio, I was the first person he thought of. Lucky for me, he also just happens to be my dad.
Wow.
So, yeah, so he's going to be doing that, so he's putting a lot of faith in me for that.
So do you think your dad has helped you sort of springboard into this business, really?
I think it's been more than springboarding, it's more sort of inheriting his passion for it.
Yeah.
The more he talked about it, the more I got interested in it and thought, yeah, I'm going to give that a go, actually.
I think it's fair to say the house had a rather unconventional palette of colours throughout.
Green's the colour of the sparkling corn in the morning when we rise. In the morning when we rise, that's the time I love the best.
So you got £5,000?
Yes.
How long have you got to do this up?
At the moment, we've estimated between 4 and 6 weeks. I have to be honest, sometimes I look around and think, I don't need that long. And other times I think, oh, well, actually, maybe.
So time to see if Hemi was right as we return 8 weeks after our first visit. Let's start by looking at the changes in the mould. Apart from the unsightly skip, which is going soon. Quite a change thanks to Hemi's hard work. Did all go as planned?
I think really most of the work was expected. There was a couple of little bits and pieces, like when we did take off the wallpaper, all the plaster came off the walls. So unfortunately we had to replaster all of that. There was a lot of garden waste, so we ended up having to hire a skip. And there was a couple of minor issues with the boiler, where we ended up having to do some repairs and what have you. But really speaking, I think we've been quite lucky in that there haven't been any major expenditures, nothing significantly over budget, so that went quite well.
How did the budget end up?
So the original budget was £5,000. We managed to get it into £5,155.
£155 over. Well, I always say keep a contingency fund. What about timescale?
It did take pretty much bang on the 4 to 6 weeks. I did have some allowance in that time frame to allow for if any contract and scheduling issues and that kind of thing. But we did manage to finish on deadline and within the time frame we imagined, so that was quite good.
Hemi's dad has ruled out selling in the immediate future. So to find out what his daughter's work is worth on the rental market, we've invited 2 local property experts for their opinions.
I've had a good look around the property. It's a very basic finish to the property, but ready to go, ready for somebody to move into.
The finish is fine. It's perfectly adequate for particularly the rental market.
With a total outlay of just over £72,500, what sort of return can he expect? And we may as well get the sale valuations too, just to find out if he would have made a profit.
The resale value of the property would be up to around £85,000 and the rental value would be up to £525 per calendar month.
I would anticipate the property reselling for somewhere in the region of £85,000 and renting between £500 and £525 per calendar month.
That's a potential profit of £12,400, minus the usual taxes and expenses, and taking the highest rental figure, nearly a 9% yield. So how do those figures stack up for Hemi and her client?
I think that's a little bit lower than the research that I've done. I did do a lot of research on the area before I recommended to my client to purchase. So the rental income that I'm expecting is around the 650, if we're lucky, a bit more towards 700. It has been advertised at that level and I've had inquiries, so that's why I'm managing it myself, really. So we'll see what return we get.
I agree with you there. The market here, or the research that we've done, seems that we might be able to achieve more on the 600 side.
Well, they say the client is always right, and so it was with Hemi's dad. His prediction of renting for £600 per calendar month came true just after filming. Something tells me it's not just a case of first-time lucky for Hemi's refurbishment future.
It was just a few miles from Stoke-on-Trent in the area of Bucknell, where we first came across an auction lot with loads of rooms, loads of space and loads of possibilities. A bit different to your average 2 up, 2 down, a substantial former care home. It's not often that you see properties like this going under the hammer, needing a specialist purchaser. Step forward, father and son team Bill and Phil, who, along with Phil's brother Will, bought it for £375,000. And they knew exactly what to do with it.
Why have you bought this place?
Well, we're going to convert it back to its old self.
Right, so old self being a care home?
It'll be a care home with particular interest to those who've got dementia and Alzheimer's.
Many years ago, Bill ran a disco called The Place before his career changed into care homes, which he's now been specialising in for over a quarter of a century.
Tell me more about your involvement in this sphere.
Well, we've been involved in it for 26 years. We now have 5, and we are 6th. And we're hoping that this will be as a success as the others have been as well.
Right. So how much demand is there, Phil, for what you're providing?
We have looked into it quite a bit, and there is quite a lot of demand in the area. Residents won't like to travel too far from where they're normally based.
Yep.
But there is a lot of demand.
The refurbishment will be an extensive one. Bedrooms are required to be bigger than they were back in the day, so some rooms were to be combined and reconfigured. And they will be applying for planning permission to extend the facility, all in accordance with the Care Home Quality Commission's guidelines. 19 months later, and we're back to check on progress. OK, so not quite ready yet, but with another care home refurbishment taking priority, this refurbishment project was put on the back burner, and it's only in the last year that work has properly started here. With Bill away in America, it was down to his son Phil to update us.
In this entrance area, we're going to have a cafe. We're going to knock through the front area there and have a bar with a coffee shop with maybe even like a The Place coffee shop, which would be quite nice. We're going to have seating through here, maybe windows into the dining area over there. And just on the left here, we're looking at having an old sweet shop, which should be really nice.
Sweet, sweet memories you gave me. You can't beat the memories you gave me.
The home will have the latest in modern technology like Wi-Fi, but there will also be a focus on various reminiscence tools like visual images and music from the past, and even smell, as these have been proved to help people living with dementia.
Sweet, sweet memories you gave.
Looking at putting a sensory garden in, which we're looking at putting some old-fashioned sensory items in, such as a phone box and a bus stop, and we'll have raised flower beds, and it'll be a nice secure area for them to go into.
Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. I've still got memories to cherish.
The Italian poet Cesare Pereversi once said, "We don't remember days, we remember moments." And that's what Phil hopes the surroundings here will stimulate. But how many residents will this building cater for once completed?
When the care home is complete in about 5 or 6 months, we hope, we're looking to have 47 bedrooms, of which we'll have about 4 or 5 en suites, and we're looking at putting a large living area in with an extension, and that's going in any minute now.
This is clearly a large project, and with an extension it's going to get bigger. But what's it all going to cost?
So far, we have spent about £200,000 on the project, and we have another £500,000 to spend on the project. We will look in total at spending about £1 million.
That £1 million includes the £375,000 it cost to purchase the building at the auction. So they may end up slightly exceeding their hoped-for £500,000 to £600,000 budget. But will it be money well spent? What does a commercial property expert think?
Well, there's been a lot of work that's been done over the course of the last few months. Some rooms have been obviously altered and rearranged. I understand that there's a plan for an extension to be added to the property. And whilst there is still quite a lot of work that needs to be done, what's been done looks to be done to a good standard. So I expect that they'll end up with a nice quality care home when it's all finished.
Phil and his dad Bill, along with brother Will, expect to have invested £1 million to get the care home up and running. But what kind of value could the end product be worth?
Once this care home is finished, I understand that it's going to be converted into a 47-bedroom care home. The value will range from somewhere between £20,000 to £25,000 per room, which will give us a range of values of somewhere between £1 million to £1.2 million.
I think that the value of £1 million to £1.2 million is quite on the low side, really. We see it being valued more along the lines of £2 million when it's full and operating.
I guess, as they say, only time will tell what the finished building and the site will be worth. But for Phil and his family, the business is just as much about running the care homes as it is refurbishing them. How do the family manage to work so closely on such a big, expensive project without friction?
You've always got your problems working with your family members, as I'm sure many family businesses would agree. We cover different areas, so there is a little bit of overlap, but not massive overlap. So it's working well as a team.
So join us next time for more stories behind those auction properties.
Yes, here on Homes Under the Hammer.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.